How you set it up?
Something like that, like.
I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education for December 10th, 2018. And our first order of business would be pleased to stand, and we'll salute the flag behind us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. I would ask, in lieu of our board secretary, who's not with us this evening, I would ask our superintendent to please call the roll.
Ms. Ahmed?
Here.
Dr. Alati?
Here.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Ms. Librera?
Here.
Mr. Mazone?
Here.
Dr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Rowland?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Again, thank you for coming this evening. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place posted on the bulletin board outside of the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are available in the meeting room, and the agenda is posted electronically on Friday before the meeting date on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Regular meetings of the Rutherford Board of Education will be broadcast without editing during a 2-hour segment as limited by Comcast time constraints on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. on Comcast Public Access Channel and on FiOS Channel 38. A video of this meeting can also be viewed on our website at www.rutherfordschools.org. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on Public Meetings and then Videos. Any member of the public who wishes to view a DVD of this meeting may make that request in writing to the board secretary. And in our packets were the minutes from the November 12th regular meeting and the executive session of that same evening. Are there any comments or questions regarding those minutes?
There's
Yes,
just a
Mr.
date error on the executive meeting minutes.
And I'm sorry, would you?
Yeah, it says December 10th for
Oh, okay.
the November 12th.
Okay,
Okay.
November 12th.
Yeah,
Yes.
change.
Okay, thank you. We'll make that change. Any others? Then we'll ask that the minutes be posted, please. And I'd like to move into the report of our student representative, if you would, please.
Hi, this is Margaret again. I'd like to apologize for missing the last meeting. And since the last meeting, I just wanted to update you on that, and then as well as what would have happened after, I guess. So after the October 22nd meeting, all 4 fall sports have ended. Boys and girls soccer have unfortunately lost in their state playoff games, making it their last game for the seniors. Girls volleyball won their playoff games and made it all the way to the state final game, played at William Patterson, but lost. And the team gave it their all, and especially it was nice for the seniors because they got to play at that state championship game, which has been played in like something like 14 years, I think. I went to the playoff game, the one before the big state game, and it was really exciting because usually a lot of sports don't get that kind of treatment unless it's football. So it was really nice to see the whole school get together and support another team. The boys cross country team also lost their state race that weekend, but the football team became back-to-back state championships this year, and the game was at MetLife Stadium. And I hope that you guys all went, but I understand that it was very cold, so I think it was just nice because it was another state champ for Rutherford, and it was amazing to cheer at another game like that. So I think for all of Rutherford, and especially the seniors, it was nice to have that one last game there. The winter sports will be making their debut this Friday after the winter pep rally. For the first time in many years, RHS will return to the previous holiday festivities. And I don't know if any of you guys remember, but like many years ago, RHS used to have like a holiday assembly instead of having they used so late, like in the past couple years, the winter pep rally was it was an introduction of all the winter sports, like most pep rallies are. But then they also had the choirs sing and the band play, and everyone dresses up in like Santa hats and everything. And due to a lot of it was very crammed, and so this is the first year in many years that they are going to separate it. So this Friday will be the winter pep rally to introduce all the winter sports, and then next Friday, the Friday before break, we're going to have a holiday assembly instead of having it at the pep rally. So there will be caroling still, and there'll still be like holiday hats and everything, so no one will be too upset. But at least this way it gives everyone their fair chance, like the musical and the athletic aspects at RHS. So to move away again from sports, the winter band and choir concert is this Thursday starting at 7. I encourage everyone to go to that because I'm in choir, so I would like to see everyone there. But I know that the band works just as hard, and they have a lot of nice pieces. I can only speak for the choir because I'm in it, so I will say the songs that we're singing. We're singing this song called Lunar Lullabies, a piece it's a lullaby for children, but it's definitely our most challenging piece. It sounds very nice. And then very different is Bayushki Bayu, which is a Russian lullaby, and it's in minor, so it's very haunting. It's not very peaceful at all. And we learned Russian, so I would really like for you guys to come and see that because we all worked really hard for it. We're singing White Christmas by Irving Berlin, the Hallelujah Chorus, which is a classical piece that we do every year. And it is encouraged that alumni and anyone that knows the song to come up and sing it with us. So that's nice. We're going to sing Silent Night, which is part of it's being sung in German because this year is the 200th anniversary of the song being written. And Ave Maria, Sleigh Ride, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, which is a spiritual, and How Lovely Are the Messengers. And then another thing I wanted to touch on was the freshman transition program, which was something that was ran by the Heroes and Cool Kids Club. And basically, when I was a freshman, we had something similar to this, and it really meant a lot to me. So this year, when the club was being reinvented since Mr. Cunningham left, we were kind of trying to think of new ideas to bring life back to the club. And I talked to Mr. Bergen about having the freshman transition program coming back, so that kind of meant a lot to me. And basically, for like last Friday, so the first period of the day, instead of the freshmen going to their classes, they stayed in their homerooms, and a couple of Heroes and Cool Kids came to their classes, and we broke into small groups, so it was very personal. Instead of just like when we talked to the sixth graders, when we just kind of talked to the class, we talked with groups of like 5 or 6 people, and it was really nice because we got to debunk some like high school like misconceptions, and we got to talk about like time management. And it was really nice to just talk to the freshmen and help them ease into being into high school. I also remembered a few weeks ago, you guys were talking about giving some money to Miss Dugard for the story that you send in, and then you get a published book. I don't know if you remember that, for creative writing. And I just wrote mine. I'm going to send it out this week, so I'm excited. I will show you when you get back so you can actually see what it looks like. And it was really fun, so I encourage you guys to keep funding that because that was nice. We also had a social media seminar this last week about the safety, internet safety, and it was important, I think, because it showed that, like, when you apply to colleges and when you get a job one day, that what you post and what you do on the internet affects you. So that was nice, and I think that you guys should do it every year. I don't know if it's in any of your power, but I thought that was nice. And I just wanted to wish everyone a happy holiday. So,
Same to you.
Thank you,
And
Margaret.
your family.
Any questions for Margaret? No? So, Margaret, I think it's marvelous that when you were a freshman, you experienced a program that had some impact on you, and you worked to get it reinstated for freshmen. That's congratulations on that initiative. That's very good. The funding that you're talking about, I think that was probably something that came to us through the REF, the Rutherford Education Foundation, which is a volunteer group in town that raises money to help supplement our school budgets, because school budgets are limited, and they do fantastic work for us. So that's one of them, and it's great to hear the positive feedback from that as well. And also well heeded the request about social media education, because I think that's something important at all ages. So thank you again. And I don't know if you have anything you need to leave for. You can be excused, or you're welcome to stay for the meeting as you please. Okay, thank you.
Before Margaret leaves?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to mention this in later on in my report, but since her report primarily is about the high school, behind me on the wall is something we just received, the AP College Board Honor Roll, and the high school has been selected for the third year in a row for this distinction. To give you an idea of what an honor this is, advanced placement are a worldwide test given to high school students who take AP courses, but it's really a reflection of the entire district when students are successful. It's a pre-K to 12 process. And this honor roll, there's only 373 high schools in the United States and Canada who have made this honor roll, and this is our third consecutive year. It's given out to schools who have done a very challenging accomplishment. They've increased the number of students who are taking AP classes and tests, at the same time increasing or maintaining your scores of 3, 4, and 5, which are the passing scores that get accepted at colleges and universities for credit. So as more students take the test, logic would often dictate that scores may go down, but the scores have actually increased, and we're being recognized for that. Again, to put it in perspective, we're one of 6 schools in Bergen County: Cresskill, Northern Valley Demarest, Bergen Technical Academy, Riverdale, and Teaneck. So that's pretty good company. So a lot of times we talk, the board speaks, about how to quantify the accomplishments of our students. I think this quantifies it very well. So congratulations to the AP teachers, the AP students, the high school administration, but really the entire district, because these are students that come through. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now you
And now you can leave. Thank you.
just wanted to make sure you heard that and brought it back to the high school, so I get a couple of props there.
Yeah.
Definitely let my teachers know.
Yeah, no, it's great
Mr.
accomplishment.
Hurley, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Years ago, they used to have a Christmas assembly where perhaps it was the principal that dressed up as Santa Claus.
There was a person who became Santa Claus when he was still a teacher, and then did it as a supervisor, and then took a year off as the assistant principal, because that's kind of the Scrooge of the place. And then as principal, he continued that. Yes, that's true. I'm not sure who that person is, but
I think I know
he
who
had
that
about
person is.
18 year. He was told it would be 1 year, and it lasted 18 years. Yes.
But I remember that was quite a fun thing for the kids.
I remember that from being little, so.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know who that is, but it's someone in the room. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
good job.
Okay, so we'll move on, and we're happy to have a special presentation this evening from our art students at Union School. And Mr. Hurley, would you introduce?
Sure. I'd like to introduce the supervisor of the art program, all the various arts, Mr. Ursulisi, and the Union School art teacher, Ms. Klubik, to present awards. These are students whose work has been chosen. As you know, if you've been following board meetings, we rotate the schools to hang up in the board office, in the hallway, to adorn the hall as people come in to both the Board of Ed offices, to the mayor's office, to the court offices. They get to see the artwork of these students. So Ms. Lubick, Mr. Ursulisi. And Mr. McLean is going to join you to present the awards. Sorry.
Congratulations to all. You should be very proud of yourselves. I'm very proud of you, my amazing artists at Union. So first is Stella Abuawad. Fabrizio Arellano. Ashita Balpande. Grace Cha. Kyla Kemple. Erin Park. Anishka Pashbikalova. Philip Spiridonov. Alexia Adakari. Irene Cho. Jacqueline Gregory. Emily Jin. Lily Lorenz. Michelle Mendonca. Nicole Sarama. And Natalie Verone. Congratulations, and I really encourage you to go see their artwork right outside of Borough Hall. It looks amazing.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the students, and Ms. Klubick, thank you. The artwork is amazing. It really is. It's people come up to the office to comment on the quality of it. So if you're in Borough Hall or you want to stop by to go take a look at it, and certainly the parents here, if you haven't seen it, please come up and see it up on the top floor of Borough Hall. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the next part of our agenda is usually the one that brings people in off the streets. It's the report of the superintendent, but with the board's permission, we'll take a brief 5-minute pause to allow our art students to be able to leave should they want to. If they want to stay and watch the meeting, that's fine, but we'll take a 5-minute pause. And again, thank you. So we'll ask that the meeting come back to session, please. Thank you. And moving on then to our next order of business, which will be the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. I gave to each of the board members results of the SAT and ACT tests. If you remember when I reported on the student achievement report in October, which I do annually, College Board had not released and the ACT group had not released the scores yet. So we've got them now. They've given a much less detailed report than they've done in the past, and I will see if we can get a little more detail later on. But it's good news in that our scores in the language arts side of it went up from, which is now called evidence-based reading and writing, that's what the acronym is, went up from 554 to 560. The math went from 547 to 561. And overall, our scores went up 1121, 1102. Although the College Board did not report to us national averages, it was published in Education Week, and the average is for the nation was 536 for the evidence-based reading and writing, so we are higher than that. 531 for math, we are higher than that, and then 1068, and they say the total mean doesn't add up because they average the way they average. So we are well above the national average, or a reasonable amount above the national average, and we've shown growth in that regard. ACT is taken by a smaller number of students. It is a subject-based test, is used by several colleges. Sometimes students are counseled a bit that would be a better test for them to take, and you'll see that our scores, as they have almost every year, have stayed relatively equal to the state averages. Some cases a little above, in some cases a tenth of a point below. They don't give the national norms to us for the ACT, and again, these scores are comparable, and also comparable to how we've done in the past. Obviously, the major most of our students take the SAT. Even those students who take the ACT often take the SAT as well. Okay, so that's just to complete the data that was presented in October, and again, we hopefully we'll get some more information for comparative studies. Yes.
Just a question about the ACT. So students who take the ACT typically take the SATs and also take AP exams. Is that correct?
Well, it depends. AP students are kids who are in the AP classes. Some students strictly take the ACT if they feel is a better test for them, for their skill set. And also if the college that they're going to is going to take that, right? But we have maybe 54 students a year, juniors and seniors, who take the ACT, where we have well over 200 every year, so there is a duplication on some students. Posted on the web. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay. Posted on the web is our district performance report, self-assessment for the CUSAC, Quality School Accountability Continuum, which will be visiting us as a monitoring on January 4th. The report, self-evaluation, was done by administrators, supervisors, as well as the CUSAC committee. And just for the record, the committee consisted of myself, the high school principal, Mr. Morano, the union school principal, Mr. Schweitzer, teacher representative, Ms. Saxon, the school business administrator, Mr. Kelly, the curriculum and instruction representative, who's a supervisor, Brenda Fargo, the collective bargaining representative for our custodial staff, Ms. Latori, a teacher, Ms. Mahoney, and a board member, Mrs. Jones. And as again, for those of you that haven't been hearing about this, this is a triannual review of everything that we do, basically, soup to nuts. Goes over instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. And there are indicators. And again, if you want to see anyone listening to this, or either through video or here, you can go to our website. You'll see it there. It has the full DPR. But there's a rather large document with indicators with multiple score mechanisms in each of the indicators for every topic. We have to produce hard evidence to the advisors, to the evaluators when they come in. So anything that we say we score it as, they have to see the evidence, or they may have already seen the evidence. Okay? So our score 80 has to be achieved in every area, and the board will be asked tonight to approve the self-evaluation, because I need that approval to submit it, and it has to be submitted by this Friday to the state. So instruction and program, we came up with an 89. I'll come back to that in a moment. Fiscal management, 100. Governance, 100. Operations, 95. And personnel, 100. This is a compliance piece, so most of what they're looking at is how you are complying with state, federal, local mandates and policy. Under instruction and program, the first 7 items are dealing with PARCC scores, attendance, and and graduation rate. Those scores are self-populated by the state. When they come in to do the observation, those scores will not change. So in other words, when the monitors come and they look at our rating, if they have a disagreement, they'll say, you know, you're not getting points there, or you didn't give yourself points here, you should give it points there. But with those items 1 to 7, there'll be no dispute because they self-populated it. The attendance, we scored basically a 14 out of 15, 13.9 out of 15, which means our overall district attendance is very good. And these are reports that get submitted annually to the state. Our graduation, the attendance was 9.5 out of 10, and the graduation rate was a 14 out of 15. So in both those areas, we did well. In terms of the park scores, they're worked on a rather involved rubric that gets developed, but what they're basically looking at is how your students perform based on targets that are established based on past tests that you've taken. But the sticky point is, let's say there's 200 students in grade 4, grade 5, whatever grade you want to pick. Any subgroup that has 20 or more members in it counts. So 50% of the state's assessment comes from the 200 students. Say you have 20 special ed students, 20, and these numbers are just, you know, you may not have that in this grade, but just as a point of example. 20 special ed students, that's a subgroup by the state. 20 ELL students, English language learners, that's a subgroup. 20 Hispanic students, that's a subgroup. Those 60 students count 50% of the aggregate score that gets averaged together to determine. But those students also count in the 200. So you could have an Hispanic English language learner special ed student whose score is worked in 4 times the one student. It's a rather unusual way to do math. So the score that we get comes from the state. The scores are, we're happy with them because we went beyond the passing mark. We all know some of the difficulties and challenges we have with Park, with opt-outs and, you know, some of the way the state adds up the numbers, but all in all, it's a pretty good score. The only place that we took points away, and is it all or nothing? This, if you notice, if you go and you look on the website, you'll see, except for the testing and the attendance graduation, it's either a 0 or a 1. So if something's worth 7 points, there might be 17 different indicators to get to that number. If you're missing on 1, you get 0. There's no partial credit. So the one area that we did lose points was, quite frankly, we dropped the ball on the first reporting of the EVVRS, which is the violence vandalism reporting. That occurred. They changed the system to student safety, some other acronym, SSDS. It happened right at the time that we made the administrative secretary change up in our office, and it just fell through the cracks. I reported both report 1 and report 2 in June, but you're supposed to report 1 in February and 1 in June or July. So we're not taking those 5 points, which is a shame because we reported it, and but it's just one of those things that with the changes, it just fell through the cracks. But all in all, the scores are healthy. I appreciate all the work that was done by people to do this self-assessment. It is, anytime you're audited, it certainly is time-consuming, and it's always a little nerve-wracking, right, how people are going to come in and assess you. But it's also valuable because it makes you look at everything, it makes you review everything, and check to make sure you're doing everything the way it's supposed to be done. Okay. So I'll ask later in the agenda, we stuck it in curriculum, even though it covers every aspect, you know, the resolution, figuring since Mrs. Jones moves curriculum pieces and she was on the committee, we'll move it there. And the board will be asked to approve this so that we can submit it in a timely fashion. Any questions on that before I move on?
So that's January 4th.
January 4th is the visit. Yep.
And how many auditors?
There'll be at least 4, maybe 5. One comes in, the county business executive comes in, and he does the school visits. He goes to 3 facilities, goes to the high school, middle school, and 1 elementary school. The 2 curriculum specialists come in and spend the day in my office where we're holding all the data, both that and electronically. There's usually a person from the county office who will assist the business person in the tours, and often the special ed county supervisor will either do some things remotely or he'll come in as well.
This, it strikes me as very similar, so when I'm not here, I'm in the pharmaceutical industry, and there'll be audits where there's standards. It will list the standard that you need to have a system that addresses, and so the first check is, do you have it? And then the second check is there evidence it's being
Right.
practiced and followed, and it's a similar type
Right,
of
exactly.
audit, so.
And all these items that are in this list, the manual that you need to fill in all this is an outline. The manual is about 240 pages, and for every one of these things, there were sub-bullets to the bullets.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before I move into the report I'm going to present on facilities, I also would like to just mention, as mentioned, the school business. Making sure this is working. There we go. I mentioned the school business executive, county. We met, Mr. Kelly and I brought him down to visit the kindergarten center. As you know, we have gotten a waiver of the kindergarten center for the last 5 years in terms of bathrooms. The problems with the three classes that don't have bathrooms is really a twofold problem. The county, the state was not real clear when they sent us that response back in August. The concern is, yes, students have to move to another bathroom, but in 2 of the classes, they have to walk through the class to get to the bathroom, and the concern is for the interruption of classes. So we brought the business executive. He's new. He just got on the job a couple of months ago. We gave him a tour of the building. We showed him the plans that we had developed for the previous facilities referendum. We explained that that referendum was voted down. We said that there was a likelihood that the board would go forward with a second facilities plan. And what we have is a plan to remedy the problem. We just need to find the funding to do it. So we had to present the plans for the bathroom to him. And he can't grant the waiver until the time that you're allowed to do that, which is usually summer. But he understood that we're registering students for kindergarten beginning in January, that we have staffing and the like to deal with. So he gave us his word, both verbally and in writing, that provide that we have a plan, and we're looking to go forward to find ways to fund it, that we'll get the waiver again for the next school year. At that point, hopefully the situation can be resolved through the facilities plan that gets approved. If not, we then would have to figure out a way to address the problem. Okay, so we got ourselves another year. It was a very good meeting in that I appreciated him coming down, taking the time to actually walk the building. The other folks didn't really do that with us, and he saw the actual size of the building. He came in while the students were there, so he got to see the value of the program. Okay? I'm going to stand up so I'm not in the way here, okay? So after the October 2nd referendum, I spoke with the board. I spoke with the board committee about the need to take some time to reflect, take some time to move away from the moment and see what we need to do to go forward. So the first thing I set out to do was have meetings. Some folks I asked if they'd come to meet. Most of the folks I'm going to go through here, not by name, I'm not going by name except for a few people, and I did get their permission to do that. Many people reached out to me to have a meeting. So Mr. Kelly and I, for the most part, we met, both of us met, sometimes it was just one of us or the other. We had 21 different meetings with 58 stakeholders. We did have one big group meeting with the committee that the board had put together. So that was a big group. Most of the other 20 meetings were with groups of 1, 2, or 3. And most of the meetings lasted an hour to 2 hours. They were not short, and they were not, I will say, they were not about looking back. They were about looking forward. Okay? We met with the board strategic planning communications committee. In fact, we had probably 3 meetings with that group. Met with the Facilities Advisory Committee. Met with the accounting firm 3 times, with Epic Management, the project management firm, and with our bond counsel. These are all separate meetings. We didn't meet together with all those groups. I met a meeting with Mayor DeSalvo, Council President McGowan, and Councilman Malahy. And Councilman Malahy is the representative of the council to the liaison to the Board of Ed. 4 parents reached out to me, all have preschool, they have nursery school children. They moved into town recently. They wanted to talk about where the schools are going. 3 parents of special education students. 3 senior citizens, counting me, that made 4 in the meetings. 7 folks who identified themselves, told me I'm a no voter, I want to meet with you, okay? I guess I'm losing, and if I lose it, I won't know what I'm talking about here. Okay. Okay, here we go. 2 candidates who ran in the board election, met with the 2 candidates individually. 5 people who told me they voted yes and wanted to come and talk to me about what they thought was happened. And I met with 3 representatives of the Save Our Pool group. I met with a couple of local architects. Had a meeting with the YMCA, officials from the YMCA, regarding the pool and the YMCA's involvement with the district. Met with the school administrators as a group, just to talk to them about some of the things that are going on and what they thought in their building. We sent a survey out to parents and students in the district. We had 580 responses, or 582 to that survey. The survey closed Friday, so I do have, I'm going to address the results kind of anecdotally, for lack of a better word. I want to make it clear that this was not a survey about the referendum. This was a required survey for CUSAC, that the NJDOE gives you the questions, and you have to survey parents, students, different surveys, right? Parents, students, and faculty and staff. That's part of the CUSAC process, school climate, they call it. The DOE does allow you to add or amend questions, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to hear, since we're doing this survey anyway, to hear what parents thought. It wasn't meant to cut anybody out. It was something we had to do, and we'd get some responses. So we asked very open-ended questions. If you didn't see the survey, what were 3 things? And I purposely, by the way, did not add multiple choice there. I wanted people to put down what they thought in the words that they thought. Made evaluating it a little more challenging, perhaps. But what were the 3 things you think were most important in the past referendum? What were the 3 things you think were least important? And where'd you get your information from to help with some of the things that we're going forward with? And we received about 25 emails, unsolicited emails from community members. Some people from all ranges of people. People from, at least 3 or 4 came from people who are not affiliated with anybody, any group, their kids aren't in school, they're not with the Save the Pool or the REF, this group or that group. They just were people who wanted to voice their concerns, which was great, because we heard from a bunch of different people. The most common concerns that came up, the cost was probably number 1. People kept referring to how much it cost. That was something that definitely came up in conversations with everybody, pro and con, in trying to assess what went on. The pool came up with a lot of people. Even folks who said they didn't have a particular interest in the pool themselves personally brought this up as something that drew their attention into the conversation about the referendum. The kitchen and cafeteria came up often in conversations. Let me go back to that for a minute. I mentioned the survey, which I haven't had time really to analyze the results yet. Those 3 items were the 3 that came up most repeatedly on what were the 3 least important things. The message, it came across that, how were people getting the message? How was the message being delivered? Who was the message being sent to? I think, in speaking going forward, if we go forward, the board chooses to go forward with a plan, I think we need to spend some time as a board and as a community thinking about how to deliver the message better. Social media came up. Too much of the message was back and forth on social media, where it was perhaps not the most accurate stuff all the time. A lot of emotions got in the way. And I think we can't totally control that, but I think we need to at least be aware of it and address it going forward, tying in with how to deliver a better message. Most common areas of agreement. A lot of people mentioned the need to upgrade and fix the Mortimer Avenue wing, both from efficiency, safety, aesthetic point of view. Improve and increase science labs. Came up often in conversations, came up often in emails, it came up often in the parent survey. More classroom space, especially at Pierpont, was noted many times. And the kindergarten center upgrades. Most of the upgrades at the kindergarten center are mandated by either state or federal rules and regulations. And I think people made note of that as well in the conversation. The fiscal challenge. Remember, we talked about cost. The areas of most value to people are also the ones that cost a lot. They're expensive propositions. PSA is estimating that new estimates will reflect a 10% increase, primarily due to tariffs. We verified this with Epic Management. We verified this with the Bond Council. I attended 2 different workshops in the last 2 months. One was on passing a referendum in a small district. Another was on public relations and media relations in a bond issue. And Mr. Kelly attended a capital project funding and management workshop. Again, these are all done by, people who are experts in the field, and they also confirm that you're looking at about 10% markup. So if the challenge is to bring some costs down, it's going down, but it's also coming up. I want to be very honest and transparent. This would have affected us even if the referendum passed. I mean, if the community voted on a $53 million referendum and we were going out to bid, right? Remember I told you it takes months, right? So we'd be developing schematic designs and we'd be going out to bid if we were lucky in February or March, right? And that 10% would be there. So our 53 million would really be, we would need 58 to do it. So this is not, yes, the delay, the, 53, I'm saying, right. It would have cost us 58. We would have gotten 45 worth of work. Right, exactly. So what I'm saying is this issue will impact us going forward if we look to bring the cost down, but it would have impacted us. Remember we talked about this. Tariffs, construction prices, bad storms, these estimates sometimes are tough as you go forward to deal with reality. Some pre-referendum factors, things that we had to do before the vote. Any alterations to previously submitted plans would need to be resubmitted to DOE. Plans are submitted by buildings, so even a minor alteration would require resubmission of all the plans. So we sent down plans for every building. The projects were numbered in Trenton, submitted to them as high school, Pierpont, Union. So even if we were to take out one thing from the high school and leave everything else untouched, or added one thing to the high school and left everything else untouched, we'd have to resubmit the plans to Trenton. There will be a fee to resubmit the plans because Trenton will charge you a fee for everything you submit to them, and they will reevaluate them, and there's a 90-day window for that reevaluation. We think that if we were making alterations and not totally changing the entire plan, it wouldn't take 90 days, but they have that window to do that. Due diligence work, surveys, environmental, work, et cetera, that does not have to be redone. So that time and cost was not have to be repeated. There might be some engineering surveys that have to be done if we're going to change a building or put something somewhere else, but I'm talking about the things like, the archaeological and the environmental and the surveys of things, the land surveys that were already completed if projects are not changing drastically in that area. We will have to do a new demographic study. You have to do one within a year of going forward. We completed the last demographic study in December of 2017, so that validity of that, the validity of that for a 5-year projection could still exist, but in terms of submitting plans, they want something within the year. So sometime after January, we would have to do a new demographic study. That's not a very timely thing to do, nor extremely costly thing to do, but it would have to be done if we go forward. The earliest date for a new referendum then would be September of 2019. There's no way to do something. I know there's people in the community like, will there be a referendum in March? Well, no, there can't be. Because if you go back to what I said, any alteration on a plan, first of all, we have to decide what plan it is that we're going to go forward with if we're going to go forward with something. Then if there's any alteration, you have to send the plans down, and there's a 90-day window. That's the last, March is the last election this year that you can do a school board referendum, and we'd have to have the ballot completely done by January 11th to get it up to the county. So the earliest would be next fall. And that's there, not to say that's when it's going to be, but to let everybody know that's the earliest it can be. Because I know there's a lot of, or there was a lot of discussion about when will they go back out and can you go back out quicker than that. So, some things to consider. Now, I want to make sure that anybody who watches this or anybody who's here listening to it understands what I'm saying. I'm saying considerations based on the conversations I've had. Okay? I'm not saying that this is what, for some of the board members, this is the first time they're hearing this. I gave them a advance notice by sending the PowerPoint to them ahead of the meeting so they could at least walk in and read it. The Strategic Planning Committee, we went through this. So the board is not making a decision, and I'm not making a recommendation to the board. But I am making a presentation based on what I've gathered from 2 months of hours and hours and hours and hours of meetings. Enter into an agreement with the borough to refurbish the field. There were a lot of conversations with a lot of folks, and in the preliminary meeting, we talked about a lot of different things. Some of the things may have been one person's idea or this guy's idea or that woman's idea that, we checked them out, we looked into them, but, what I wanted to bring forward here are the things that really seem to resonate a little better. The borough has talked to us for the last, I spoke to the borough 5 years ago, recognizing the need to upgrade that field. Coming as a high school principal, I spoke to the borough about getting in some kind of agreement where the borough could take on the renovation through grant programs or other funding that they're able to do. There was some interest on both sides. It kind of ran into a couple of snafus that we just then we decided, hey, we may be going forward as these committees develop with a facility plan, maybe we'll just fold it into that. But we could work out a deal. I mean, again, it's very embryonic at this point, but I think the board, the borough mayor and council are certainly interested in having a deal where the school district would not lose any of the usage that they currently have, and there's all kinds of arrangements that you can make with the borough to move that to them. Eliminate the kitchen and cafeteria, thereby maintaining the pool. Renovate the existing 4 science labs that are in this building to allow for more contemporary science labs. 2 of those labs are very small. 2 are a little more adequately sized. Part of the discussion, if we went that way, would be, do we want to keep them as 2 that are small and 2 more adequate, or do we want to divide up 4 equal rooms? But those are discussions to have if we were to go forward with that at a later date. These changes here would reduce the cost by about $9.3 million. I want to make something else clear, okay? I don't want to stand here and not tell the story of what we know the story to be right now. But with estimates changing, I'm telling you where things land right now. And I had both Epic and the architect look at these numbers, and I looked at them as well. But this is based on where things are right now, and they're rounded numbers. Okay? The impact of these considerations at the high school would be a loss of a district kitchen and adequate high school cafeteria, the loss of the 5 additional classrooms. That should really be a second party, not a third party. I apologize for that. The need to have an agreement in place with another party to assume fiscal responsibility of the pool. I think it's clear that the financial burden of a pool is hard for a school budget to maintain, which if you saw the list of people that I spoke to, I spoke with the Y, and we're going to have continued conversations with other groups to see what kind of agreement we can enter into to have a sustainable pool going forward. That would be my thought if we go this route. These considerations, the ones on the previous page, address the 3 most mentioned items for the referendum. It lowers the cost a little bit, the kitchen, and the pool. Other considerations, alterations, remove the AC from Union School Auditorium. Again, these are just things that are out there, you know, not being recommended, not saying they're going to happen. Eliminate the playground expansion at Washington, Lincoln, and K Center. Move the K Center roof, which is probably one of the more manageable costs to a capital project in terms of the budget. These considerations do not impact class size or class space or classrooms or science labs or physical education space, but they do reduce the project by about $1.7 million. Total reduction of approximately $11 million to $12 million, if you depending on how you round, would reduce the bond amount from $53 million to $42 million. But with an anticipated 10% increase, the bond amount would be closer to $46 million. State aid would reduce the local share to $34.9 million. And the local share is what the taxpayers have to bear. I'll say that again. The local share is what the taxpayers have to bear. I think sometimes that got lost in the dialogue. Some additional considerations for Pierpont. Eliminate the second floor of the new addition. There are only 5 classes currently in plans for the first floor. If we keep all the classes in Pierpont that we currently have, we need at least 6 classes in order to reduce class size, because we need 2 for every grade level. Adding a 6th class to the first floor, the way we would cut into the plan to do that, again, these are preliminary discussions, would be to reduce the size of the gym to a single station gym, which means that the increased gym really wouldn't be a benefit from educational standpoint in terms of teaching stations. If a 6th class is created, it would be enough for grade level classes, but would not provide for special education or other electives. The benefit would be a potential, so that would be a detriment, right? The bullet up there about this. The benefit would be you could reduce by about $4 million. Open space at Pierpont, that came up a great deal. The upper field at Pierpont, where the students use and the YMCA uses, and looked at it the other day with the principal and with our director of building and grounds, could be developed into a grade appropriate playground for grades 4, 5, and 6. Could be, I think, beautified and fortified a little better rather than a chain link fence that comes across, in terms of creating some open space at relatively an expensive cost because of the grade level we're talking about. And as I said, this area is currently used by students, but could be improved to encourage wellness activities. In order to get something going forward in a fashion that would allow us, the district, the community, the board to go forward to a facilities plan to get something up so that the summer of 2020 we could begin to work on construction to move forward. We really have to get something up by the early fall. And in order to do that, we have to move relatively quickly, but we have to move, intelligently, but quickly. So you could have facilities at rutherfordschools.org. Email is still in effect. Or you can email me directly, or anybody else up here directly. We will have board meetings on January 7th, and right now tentatively, but most likely that calendar will be approved on January 28th. And I'm going to hold a meeting. I'm going to most likely hold a meeting. I'm going to confirm it all, and we'll have it out there well ahead of time on January 8th. The meeting is not going to be a presentation. It's not going to be, the presentation will be about as long as this one was, maybe even less. Present some of the thoughts that we heard in our listening tour and ask people to come up and comment on those aspects of the plan or anything else they want to comment on. And I will not, I don't plan, I don't know if the board, this is the first I've talked about this with the board, I don't plan on answering questions. I don't plan on getting into a debate or discussion or explanation or come to an agreement. I think it would be good just to listen to what people say and record all that so that we heard from a bunch of people. I've talked to the mayor about getting this posted on the marquee outside of, signboard outside of Borough Hall, as well as Union, and so we get the word out to a wider breadth of the community. So, in terms of trying to go forward with a reduction in cost that does not gut what we need, which are classes, science labs, and space, realizing that there will be a sacrifice of classes and other areas that were felt to be needed, but to address some of what we heard in the election and post-election. These are some thoughts that in short order, the board and the community need to reflect on. So, that's my report.
Thank you.
And as far as my total report, that's
Okay. Thank you. So returning to the agenda. So are there any questions from board members for the superintendent regarding anything on his report?
Just one observation.
Yes, please.
As we're talking and going forward, and I realize it's preliminary, but we did have a detailed plan. And as we go forward, I know there was a number thrown around. As far as the value going into a new plan, could we have like a side-by-side, just as a suggestion, a side-by-side from the architects to say what was, what did we previously have planned, what is in the plan now, and the costs?
we have that already.
Okay, the
And
track,
what I wanted to produce tonight was a summary overview because, I think, and again, I'm trying to be as honest and, if we list every item in the plan and every cost and what was there, I don't want anything to be interpreted by anyone that this is already done. But I asked, we have an analysis of cost side by side of everything that was.
So value-wise, we could assess that, the value that we're going to get for that, whatever it is.
Well, right. I mean, what we, again, and I think I understand the question. If the board, I didn't make a recommendation. I'm not asking the board to make a recommendation, right? I just reported on what I found. But if you subtracted the things that were up there, and then everything else from the last one would remain, and you would see is that what you mean? Like what would be left? Yeah.
I wanna see-
Right.
as we go forward.
We discussed in the committee, we discussed having kind of that, I think that what you're talking about, kind of a line item, look, and these are the things we're striking out, and that sort of thing. And you know, to the point that Mr. Hurley's making, we decided that, you know, at this point, that was a little premature and would imply that decisions were made. But certainly as we go, we'll have that type of information, comparative information, to be able to refresh our memories, remind ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
That represented to me the requirements, right? What was needed, all the needs were in that original
Right,
plan.
there'll be certain aspects of the original referendum which are gone, which are lost. And,
Right.
you know, Mr. Hurley spoke to some of those, the 5 classrooms in this building, you know, that sort of thing. And yeah, there'll be, but to the other point Mr. Hurley made is we don't want to spend a lot of time looking back, right? We have to
No,
look at
understood.
what's going forward, but fair enough to understand,
Yeah. When you
you know,
put a
the
number
need
on
that
it,
will
though,
still remain afterwards.
It'd be nice
Yeah.
to know that.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mazzei.
So I just want to thank Mr. Hurley, Mr. Kelly, for their efforts to get to the root cause analysis of the vote, because I know that there was a lot of time and effort put into it by, obviously the superintendent, the administration, the administrators. So I appreciate that. I think it took a lot of time and effort to put that together. I also appreciate bringing members of the community in and listening to what other people had to say, so we can get to the business of improving our schools. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that you mentioned, 28 meetings, was it? Or
Something like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
20, and each one being
About an hour. or two.
you know, this wasn't, they also kept running the district of, 2,700 students at the same time, so,
Well, there's no.
no option.
There's no reason to thank anybody. This was about trying to bring forward a plan that would deal with real needs that the district has. I think, we have to be realistic, and we have to be cognizant of what the response was to the first plan, and I think we have to come up with the next best plan we can, and hopefully the community rallies around that plan. This is not about anything other than trying to make the district the best it can be for the current students and the future students, pure and simple. So this is not I don't want to say a lot. I want to say, but it's not about going past, and it's not about winning. It's not about losing. It's about what's best for the students and the community going forward.
Any other questions?
Just a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was very clear as we moved through the process, for the first version of the referendum, was that people in the community felt very strongly about a lot of different elements of the plan. And I think that passion is something that certainly came through in very clearly, and I think it was also it was representative of the strong feelings that people have about the town and the things that they think are important for the town. And I think all of those perspectives and all of those positions came from the right place. So I think moving forward, I think one of the things that we all need to do is engage in the discussion fresh, not necessarily from the perspective of the strong feelings that we had about version 1 and coming off of version 1, but really thinking about what does version 2 look like. I would say that with all of the folks that I spoke with, regardless of whether they voted no or they voted yes, I think everyone was excited to engage in a discussion about how to move the district forward. And so I think as long as that's what we're focused on now, I think we'll move forward in a very productive way. And I look forward to the discussions.
Thank you. No other comments? We'll move on then to to my report, not really a report, but I'd like to take a few minutes and, add a few words on a couple of subjects. Firstly, to thank Dr. Alati for covering the PT Council meeting the other night. Appreciate your standing in on that last Thursday. And then just to think a little bit about the fact that it was, it seems like not too long ago we had our 2018 organization meeting, yet here we are on the last meeting of the year already. And, I think part of the reason the year flew by so fast was because of how busy we were with some of the things that we just talked about. We had some good accomplishments. We had new contracts with 2 of our bargaining units, and then the normal course of business that we go through. We, of course, had the major shortfall with the facilities plan, and as said, we want to take a fresh look and be very positive with whatever plan we come up with moving forward. I think, as disappointing as that was, I think that, especially considering all the effort and time that everyone here and our administration and Mr. Kelly, who's not with us, put into it, I'm really very impressed with the attitude since October to turn around and take that, as you said, look forward as opposed to looking back and trying to come up with what version 2 is. And so we're going to be just in a couple of weeks at our 2019 reorganization meeting already. And I'd say, it's going to be the same group of folks sitting on the board. So I guess all I could say is, buckle in. We're going to have another busy year of activities. With that said, at the January 7th meeting, in your packets was the list of preferences for committees and liaison assignments and representatives to the various county and state board of education positions that we have to fill. So if you can, a couple of people have already given me those tonight. I'll hold on to those. If the others can bring them with them to the January 7th meeting, then whoever we elect as president for 2019 will use those, I'm sure, in the same fashion we've used them in the past, looking at preferences and, maybe certain skill sets people bring to the table and to seniority, to fill those positions. So the other point I would make is that this month we begin negotiations with our third and largest bargaining unit, the Rutherford Education Association. Our current contract will end on June 30th of 2019, and everybody that's involved on both sides are, I think, anxious and feel good about that we'll be able to resolve a new contract, well ahead of that date. On the agenda this evening is a resolution to authorize, I should say, as our negotiating committee, Dr. Alati, Dennis Mazzone, myself, and Sally Libera as the alternate. We are doing that as co-chairs, so that if someone is unable to come, that we can go on and continue on with negotiations. So we're looking forward to that. And so finally, I guess I'd say to my fellow board members that I wish you a peaceful and happy holiday season as we come through, and a healthy start to the new year. And on behalf of the board, to those who are here with us or watching on tape, and certainly to our administration, the same wishes. So thank you. If there's no questions, then we'll, at 8:45, open the floor to the public for comments related to the agenda, please. And if someone has a comment to make, name, address, and comment. And don't see anybody rushing to the microphone, so at 8:45 and a quarter, we'll close the floor. Oh, no, we do have, yes, please.
Any comments related to the agenda or?
Agenda items, please, yes. Well, I don't want to make people hang around, so we'll take, if there's no objection, we'll take comments on any subject then.
Hi, you said comments on anything, correct?
Yeah, it didn't appear anybody had an agenda.
Yeah, no.
Because normally we like to hear from folks about things we're making.
Understood,
business.
thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
please. Yes.
So, hello, good evening, Board President, Board members, Superintendent Hurley. My name is Dr. Adriana Coppola. My husband, Matt Coppola. We go by both.
And if you would state your address, please.
Yes,
So-
35 Addison Avenue. I have my phone just to keep me on task here. I would like to express my extreme disappointment with Mr. Schweitzer, Union School Principal, for his unprofessional manner towards me regarding an incident surrounding our daughter. His verbal attack towards me and shouting when I was trying to have a conversation with him via speaker phone.
If I could interrupt.
Yes, you
I
can.
do just want to point out that we can't
I
say
understand.
anything about an employee or student.
I understand.
And if you'd prefer, we could have a meeting in executive session where it might be more of a dialogue, but it's up to you.
That's wonderful. I want to just memorialize this.
Okay.
Okay? So I would just like, and it's very brief, I would just like to memorialize that he was shouting at me, and it was very unprofessional. And to this day, I am still not, it's an unresolved issue. And I just wanted to say, as public servants, I am a school administrator as well. And as a public servant, I understand it is vital to keep a customer service in a peaceful manner. And I would just like to express my, my sadness that this was not geared towards us in this manner, in a positive way. Thank you, and happy holidays.
I can only
Okay.
acknowledge your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, if you could, I don't think we caught the name, so maybe you could just. You got it? Okay. Okay.
Frank Wilson, 171 Montrose Ave, Rutherford. Before I go into what I was saying, I do agree with some of the things you said, Mr. Hurley. It's nice, it's refreshing that your approach. So I didn't see you. If you saw me in the back, I gave you a couple thumbs up. So the way that we're going about it this time is completely different than the last time. And just keep going down that road. I think you're heading in the right direction. Okay, I wrote this stuff down basically, which I don't like reading off a script, but it was very important that I say these things. This is the first chance I've had to speak to all of you as a group. And you all know that I ran for Board of Ed election. And in my opinion, this was the most vile election I've ever been involved in. I ran for council in 2006, and I lost. But Maura Keys, who was my opponent, and I became friends afterwards. And we never attacked each other. We never said any vile words about each other. And Maura had some problems, and I tried helping her through it. And we became friends after it. We didn't know each other before the election, but we became friends afterwards. Another board member was, their child was dating my child. So while we disagreed, while he was on the council, once that was done, we never attacked each other. We never said vile things to each other. And to this day, we're still friends. Ms. Jones, in 2014, you ran and I ran. And I have to congratulate you in front of everybody here that you and I never said bad things about each other. I don't see any print, any attacks, any vileness, and I don't think that's in your nature. So there was, and I say this because I discovered a website that was out there that basically called you a flip-flopper, and it had my name on it. And I don't Facebook, I don't Twitter, I don't tweet, I don't Instagram. I've been referred to as having a picture of me on a cave wall in France. I don't do any social media. I got a hold of somebody that does do social media to have them reach out to Facebook and have that thing immediately taken down, and it was. And one of the teachers in the school that I had a meeting with is the one that pointed it out to me. And we had oppositions on different way of thinking things, but we came together on that, and now we're also friendly. So, you know, there's things in there that I'm taking to heart right now because there were a few comments that are made out here on various pages that attack my character. And I'm a lot of things. I don't walk on water. I've made mistakes in my life, but I'm not vile. And when people come after me vilely, you can disagree with my opinions, you can disagree with the way I look at things, but when you come after me, you also then coming after my family. And I don't do that, and I expect that not to be done to me. And the reason why I'm saying this is because at the debate, Mr. Racine, you made a very big statement about when I said the ratio was 11-to-1 on a student-teacher, and you basically didn't say I was a liar, but you said I basically was lying about that number. And I have a report from the New Jersey Department of Education that lists 11-to-1. I have a report from U.S. World News, lists 11-to-1. I have Public School Review that lists 11-to-1. So how am I a liar or incorrect when all these sites, including the state of New Jersey, are saying 11-to-1? While I said it, shake your head and say I'm not telling the truth.
Mr. Wilson?
No, sir, let me finish. Let me finish. I have a right to say this. I do have a right to say this.
I just want to make
Yeah.
one point,
Go ahead.
please. That activities of individuals regarding election are not something that the board of Ed weighs in on or gets involved with.
Fine, and you can say, and you don't have to say a word. This is me addressing the board. And you have some board members here that, and you can make those disparaging, grunty faces all you want, but sir, man up. I'm a citizen, I pay taxes like you do. Don't give me that look. Be a professional.
Mr. Wilson, I will interrupt, and I do have the authority under our policy to do that. When a discussion turns into a personal discussion, I mean, it sounds like there may be some personal discussions that you want to have with individual board members, and that certainly is your prerogative. And I would think that most of the board members would have those personal discussions with you, but this venue is not the appropriate
Okay, well,
venue
being
for
that you don't
personal-
want to hear it, I will end this. But my comment will be is, I've been attacked. I've been asked that basically I've hidden money. I've had almost that the Russians were funding my campaign. I've had statements all over the place, and I didn't see this until afterwards because I don't do social media, okay? All I can ask is that the vile attacks stop. You take the lead from Diane Jones and Sally, because you didn't say anything either, so I credit you, that you handle yourselves professionally moving forward. And I'll end this. That goes for whether I ever run again or somebody else runs again or whoever it is. Take the vileness out of this. Take the attacks out of this. If Mr. Hurley puts a plan out there and you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. But the vileness, take that out. You know, I mean, you're going to get attacked for whatever plan you put out, but you can disagree with the man, but don't make it vile. And the vileness has to stop. And I'm the first one to say it up here, is the vileness back and forth, whether you agree with Mr. Hurley, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with Ms. Jones, whether you agree with Mr. Racine, wherever it is, the vileness that's being spewed out on social media has to come to an end somewhere. We sit next to each other. We eat at the same places. We probably get our clothes done in the same places. Making attacks at each other doesn't help anybody. And that's what I can tell everybody from my personal view. I don't social media. You see something with my name on it, it ain't me. All right? That's all I can tell you. I can't tell you what to do or not to do. I'm just saying, let the violence end. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would say, again, if there's a personal issue, it should be addressed at a personal level. I think, though, that you're spot on about that social media can get certainly out of hand. I think Mr. Hurley was making reference to that, and even our student representative this evening reported on that. We have proactive programs in the school for proper use and behavior in social media. So I think those words are true, and so there should be no member sitting here that made any expression on behalf of the board, because the board does not have any opinion on elections and the way they go on. However, to the extent possible, I think anything we can do to, to promote and inspire civil, engagement during elections or any other time is something that the board can fully get behind. So in those comments, thank you.
Mr. McLean, can I make one comment?
Yes, please.
I mentioned before, but Mr. Mahmood knows me. I'm talking, he sits down, so I'm going to go on for a while. I mentioned about looking forward. I don't think it's good to go back and rehash. Although, Mr. Wilson, I appreciate you have a right to come up and say whatever you feel you need to say. But I'm talking about what you said at the beginning and at the end. I think it's very important that we go forward in a positive spirit. Keep in mind that we should not be emulating or mimicking what's going on in the halls of Trenton and the halls of Washington and the halls of in France. It's not just the United States. Look what's happening over in France in the last couple weeks. We are in the business of all of us. I'm not saying the board or me, everybody in this room. If you have an interest in the Board of Education, we are in the business of education. And students watch us. And they watch how we speak. And I'm not putting myself out of this dynamic, okay? They watch how we speak. They watch how we act. They watch how we accept victory. They watch how we accept defeat. They watch that. And I hope going forward that we realize that we all have the same goal to come up with the best vision for our schools. And maybe we could be that example to the rest of the world that would rather, yell and scream behind the anonymity of social media. And I don't doubt, I'm not disputing what Mr. Wilson says, it's pretty easy to make an account and say you're somebody. So that's real anonymity, you know what I'm saying? Anonymous. We need to think about that going forward. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Yes.
Hisham Mahmoud, 259 Orient Way. Mr. Hilley, I want to personally thank you for actually taking the time, keeping up with me. I think we're supposed to meet. I thought we're going to speak for half an hour or so. You spent more than an hour with me. It was close to an hour and a half. I know I made you hungry. Yeah. You probably were so thirsty from talking. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I really apologize about taking a long time with you. But I really appreciate what you said, and I really understand, and I wish we can move forward. Ms. Libera, I could not agree with you more, and I appreciate your honesty. Yes, we need to move forward. To me, to move forward, let's clear the air and be honest. When I ran for the Board of Education, one of the reasons I wanted to set the example for my kids, how you can disagree with someone and yet be respectful. Never call them by name. When Frank and I ran, and I do echo some of what he said, we never mentioned our opponent by name. We never said ABC. We always said our opponent. We never called them name. Was there some political advertisement? For sure there were, but we never called them name, and we tried to stick to the facts to the best of our ability. What really hurt me, when my 12-year-old come home to me before the election, and he tells me, you know what, I wish you and Dr. X win or lose. I said, why? He goes, because if both of you win, you will not be bitter against each other. If both of you lose, you will not be bitter against each other. Because my son is a friend with his son. Now, what really hurt me during this election, the vileness that was coming out of it. And again, I want to move forward. I want to forgive what was been said. My character, and also Frank's character, was almost demolished by a lot of people on Facebook. I could care less. I could clarify that or ignore it. But when the sitting 3 board members who were running for the board say and insinuate, and I quote, "It is important that you do your homework to see who is behind the formalized funding and social media and website blitz and the single agenda special interest." Insinuating that some organization is paying for our campaign and eventually accusing us by committing crime, I don't think that was a good example to handle an election. All of you probably after this meeting going to go to an exec and you're probably gonna discuss maybe some HEP cases, which the superintendent will present to you. HEP stands for harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So for us adults to say that, and what really hurt me actually more than the 3 running mate saying that and accusing that a sitting board member who knows me better, goes and comments on social media, "Nice job, well said," which in other words, he agreed with what the 3 members said. As I said, we never accepted donations, and I say it on the record, our finance are all posted in e-lick. On the contrary, and I'm just saying it, not for nothing, the 3 running board members did not post all their finance on e-lick. We were very transparent. We did not get funds from any organization. The YMCA did not pay for our campaign. If we raised a penny, we put it on our website. Again, I would like to move forward, but from my 12 years old to come to me and tell me that, it made me want to cry. Because that person on the board here, he's been in my house. I've been in his house. Our kids play together. So for him to go out and say that on behalf of the 3 board members, I think that was uncalled for, unacceptable. If you want to check our financial, it's all on ELEC website, and we filed everything to the penny, and it shows where the money came from. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.
Are there any other comments I would like to make? It is 9:02. We will close the meeting for public comment. We will have an additional period of public comment as normal at the end of the agenda. And we move into the first area of new business, which is personnel. Mrs. Ahmed, would you walk us through what we'll be looking at tonight? And if there were any meetings, I don't think there were.
No, there were no meetings, and there's quite a few here, and they're like scattered, so be a little patient if it takes a little longer. I'd like to move number 1 first, Great Lutweiler. The first motion accepts her retirement. And June and Juana Morin, number 2, also to accept her resignation as head lunch monitor. 3, Shirley Henry, to accept resignation for lunch monitor also, but at Lincoln School. 4, Melanie Anderson, to accept teacher assistant resignation. 5, Barbara Gibson, resignation of also her at lunch monitor at Lincoln School. 6, Laureen Buckley, resignation guidance counselor at the high school. 7, Brian Picard, to terminate employment as of November 30th, 2018, and to provide the superintendent notification of, authorize the superintendent to provide notification of termination to the employee. 8, Dennis Rossi, to approve Dennis as an interim assistant principal at Pierpont School. Number 9, Amy Musto, to approve Amy as a long-term substitute elementary teacher at Lincoln School. 10, lunch monitor, to approve Paola Dunn, a lunch monitor, at the kindergarten center. 11, a lunch monitor, Lois Michi?
Yes.
At Washington School.
Louise Meach.
Louise? Okay, I'm sorry. Number 12, lunch monitor also, Brenda Elagavan as lunch monitor at Washington School, to approve her. And also 13, we
No.
will be talking about later. We're going to move it to another, I think it's
We're
number 23,
we're
right?
moving 13 from the agenda. and I'll explain that later.
All right, so 14, Morgan Deming, to approve disability leave, and she's a pre-K teacher at Washington School. 15, Colleen Kick,
Kick.
approve her disability leave with pay, language arts teacher at Union School. 16, Alicia Skelza, extend the unpaid child rearing leave. 17, approval for 3 workshops at $35 per hour. 18, Joyce Kenyon, provide home tutoring, ABA services to students at $35 an hour. School safety specialist. 19, to approve Mr. Hurley as a school safety specialist for the Rutherford School District for the 18th-19th school year. 20, negotiations committee, that was discussed before, selected for the following individuals, negotiating team of the board: Mr. McLean, Dr. Alati, Mr. Maison, and Mrs. Librera. I don't have to read that resolution,
No.
right?
No.
Okay, 21, travel reimbursements. And that was listed in a separate page here, I'm sorry, gotta go back. As listed. And then 22 will be Aish Al-Shinawi, to approve, I guess it's her, I'm sorry, Aisha?
Yep, yes. Mhm.
As a long-term substitute teacher assistant at Pierpont School. And then 23, Stephen Ellers, to approve Stephen as a teacher assistant in Pierpont School effective December 11th through 2018 school year at the hourly rate of $19.26 replacement position. That's it.
Okay, so as you have formally moved under Personnel Resolutions 1 through 12 and 14 through 23, is there a second? Seconded by Mrs. Rivera. And then we will have any questions or comments regarding these?
A couple of comments, if I could. Thank Ms. Lutweiler, who is a special ed teacher at the high school. And of course, we always have a little more to say at the end of the year for retirements, but we wish her well in her retirement. The removal of resolution number 13 was the gentleman, Mr. Ehlers, came on board as a lunch aide back in November, waiting for this board meeting. He's in school to become a teacher. He was looking to become a teacher assistant, and when an opening came up late, he asked to be considered for that position. So we're moving him to that position, which is, better suited for his skill set. So that's why we're removing him from one and pointing for the other. Okay, and I think that's it for personnel. Oh, and Mr. Rossi, we are planning and hoping to have a recommendation on the January 7th board meeting for a assistant principal at Pierpont School to be effective February 1st. Mr. Rossi was brought on until the end of the calendar year. We needed to extend that by 1 month as we went through the process, and he agreed to stay on. And he has done a really excellent job for us in his stay.
Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, then we ask Mr. Hurley to poll the board on personnel resolutions 1 through 12 and 14 through 23.
Ms. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Lottie?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Maison?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Jones, would you tell us what we're
Yes.
doing this evening?
There are 8 resolutions for board member consideration under curriculum and instruction. Number 1, the CUSAC 2018-19 District Performance Review to approve and attest to the accuracy for the CUSAC District Performance Review. Resolutions 2 through 4 deal with we need affirmation of the superintendent's decisions regarding HIV. Resolution 5 is out-of-district placements to students for a total of $113,153.75. Resolution 6 needs approval for field trips, which now total 98 for the school year 2018-19. Resolution 7 is the emergency evacuation drills. We've just added Rutherford High School to that, so now they're all complete. And Resolution 8 is the home instruction for 6 students. You spoke to the CUSAC, so I don't know if there's anything, any other questions on that, but the rest of it is pretty.
So we're in a open discussion period as they've not been formally moved yet. So any questions, comments? Superintendent,
No comment.
anything
I
else?
move
No.
resolutions 1 through 8.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Rowland. Last chance for comments or questions on curriculum instruction, resolutions 1 through 8. Seeing none, ask the superintendent to please poll the board.
Ms. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lebrero?
Yes.
Mr. Bezone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Moving then into finance. Mrs. Libero, would you fill us in, please?
There are 2 finance motions tonight. The first is the approval of bills totaling $4,344,600.71. And the second is to approve a transportation agreement with the Englewood Board of Education to transport 1 student from Rutherford to Dwight Morrow High School in Englewood, New Jersey for the 18-19 school year, cost not to exceed $1,000. I'd like to move the 2 motions.
Seconded by Mr. Racine, Dr. Racine. Questions, comments regarding finance 1 or 2? None. I'd ask the superintendent to please poll the board.
Ms. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lebrero?
Yes.
Mr. Mazone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Moving on then to policy, Mr. Healy. Is
Yeah, there was
anything this
no
evening?
policy committee meeting since our last board meeting, and there are no policy motions tonight.
Thank you. Moving then to buildings and grounds. I believe there's a committee report. But
Yes, so the committee met since we were last together. Brief meeting, we had an opportunity to get an update on the RHS boiler project update. We also talked about some of those the status of pre-referendum projects. I think Mr. Hurley covered a lot of that though in his presentation. And there are no agenda items this evening.
thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mazzone regarding the building and grounds report? No? We'll move on then. It's not on the agenda, but strategic planning had I don't know if you have any other comments regarding the meeting?
Pretty much summed it up.
Okay. And any questions from anyone to Dr. Racine regarding strategic planning and communications? No. So, okay. We're now in the period of old business, meaning any business, any topic that a member would like to bring in front of the board for discussion.
One comment. Historically, I guess what we've done is at the reorganization meeting, select a president, and vice president, and then usually the committees get decided by the new president working with me, and then we usually approve those or appoint those folks at the next meeting. So there's a gap, right, in January when the committees really are in place. Looking at budget, we've done this in the past, which will be in the heart of the budget. Looking at the strategic planning and communications, we're going to be in the heart of that. I would ask either that at the January meeting, we either grandfather the existing committee until a new one is put together, or we fast track and come up with a new committee, because particularly in those 2 areas, we can't delay. Okay, so we'll keep that in the back of our mind.
Yep. That's
okay.
okay. Well noted.
Also, I mentioned in communication of the packet that there's a meeting on January 16th in Woodridge. Bruce Young, who's the president of the county school boards, called me and invited any board member who would like to go to Woodridge Borough Hall It was in my communication, I believe. Senator Sarlo is going to be there and for a little roundtable discussion with board members. He just asked that I give him a call and let him know if anyone was interested. And he kind of wants that in the near future. So if you think you want to attend,
Is it 4 p.m.?
I believe it's 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
I think it was in the communication. So if you could let me know, if not tonight, within the next day or two, should you be interested, I'll let him know.
And I'm sorry, what?
It's Senator Sarlo, the state senator,
What was the date?
January 16th, I believe. It is in the communication.
Yeah.
And if no one can make it or no one cares to, that's fine. He just wants to know if anybody's coming. Okay.
It's at Woodridge
He said Woodridge Borough Hall.
Borough Hall. If it's 6 p.m., I can make it. If it's 4 p.m., I cannot.
Why you say you want to go? Is your time?
No, I'm not sure. I just couldn't remember the time that you said.
You okay with that then? So
sorry?
are you a yes? Should I let him know you're a yes? Or you
Yes,
wanna-
I'll go any other board member too, but I can make 6.
Okay. So if anybody else wants to go, if you let me know. He was looking for the information last week, but I told him we had a board meeting tonight and I would see everybody. So you can email me tomorrow, whatever. Okay? I'll wait till Wednesday.
Okay. Any other topic for any, no? Mrs. Jones, is there any legislative update?
There is one thing on perk orders, pay raises through negotiations unfinished, that I would just like to submit that to you, Mr. President, and just in case it's of interest now that we're entering negotiations. And the other one that is pending, it's been pending all year, but they're still trying to move it ahead. And that's a position statement on Senate Bill 1055, which requires full-day kindergarten in all school districts and establish uniform age enrollment requirement for enrollment in kindergarten. They really want to make that mandatory, and they want to do it in the next year or so. So it behooves us to make sure that our facilities are intact in any way that we can do it, hopefully through the referendum. And then just one more thing, I did attend the Bergen County meeting at the end of November. It was on mindfulness. It was wonderful. Alicia Di Lorenzo gave the presentation. She was well received by everybody, very energetic, and she's in a rough district in Asbury Park, and what it has done for her students down there, it's been incredible.
I know that we've cut back on the presentations from the schools to the board, in half. But I'm hoping that the principals that do present something on either mindfulness or wellness or growth mindset, because there's really a lot of good things happening in all the buildings in that regard. So I'll encourage them maybe to present.
Great, in all schools. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. It is 9:18, and we will open the floor again to the public for anyone wishing to make a comment on any subject. Seeing none, we will close the floor to public comment also at 9:18. And we do have need for an executive session this evening to discuss 3 student matters and give a negotiations update. No action will be taken. Expect to be gone 15 minutes.
Hold on.
If that.
15 minutes, no action will be taken.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Rivera, seconded by Mr. Mazzone. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're in executive session.